And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 23rd episode of The Hoosier Sound. I'm your host, Noah Freeman, and I am here with Matthew Lukens. Our show has one main goal: to see our perspective of IU sports from the point of view as a student or young adult. In addition, we'll also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. We'll be going live every Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m., but if you miss us live, you can subscribe to various networks so you can listen on your own time. We are now on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and our live stream will be posted on our YouTube page after each recording. All you got to do is search for The Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts and just hit that subscribe button. Simple, easy, and it'll mean a lot to us if you guys did subscribe. Social media is also big for us, and we post updates for you guys in Facebook and Twitter. Make sure to give us a like and a follow, as well as subscribe in the YouTube account. All the information is in the description below. You can check out our website, thehoosiersound.com, to find all of our information in one place. On our website, you can be on the lookout for blogs and articles we'll be putting up every once in a while, so make sure to follow us on Twitter so you can get those. In addition, last week I was able to hop online to speak with Jared Morris of the Assembly Call. So if you haven't been able to check that out, I highly recommend it. Jared's just a great guy who has a lot of great IU insight, and we just basically went through every player on the team and how they've contributed or haven't contributed basically to the Indiana basketball team and season this year, and how they might be able to contribute moving forward. But all right, Hoosier Nation, it is time for some sports talk. I've seen a lot of controversy basically and stuff over Twitter and social media and everything, basically talking about Archie Miller and his first season. Matt, how do we categorize this, and how do we talk about Archie Miller's first season? Is he having a successful season? How can we really talk about short-term versus long-term success with Archie Miller?
A successful season is improving the mistakes previous to him, right? So he's coming in, he's trying to set a bar for himself. This is his first season, gets the job. What did we talk about with the problems with IU basketball last year? Turnovers, defense. Those are the two main problems we had with IU basketball last year. What has been not cured, but greatly improved? Turnovers for the most part, except for our senior guards, but you can't fix what was already broke.
And they're especially senior guards too, which they've been in now multiple systems, some of them, and they've just had 3 years, and it's kind of hard to break 3 and even more years of habits, basically, however much it might have contributed in high school. It's hard to break that in 1 year exactly.
Right, exactly. And then 2, our defense is much better. I think everybody will say that. And then also 3, the third point that I'm going to make and why it's successful is you have to look who left, right? OG left, starter in NBA. Thomas left, going to be a bench player in the NBA come the end of the season because the Lakers love him so much. James Blackman, who is killing it in the D League, right? We lost 3, maybe not NBA caliber, not all of them are NBA caliber prospects, but 3 solid starters that would have been here this year to the NBA and or the G League, and we're still competing. We're not going to win a national championship. We're not going to make it to March. We may not even make it in the NIT. But we have a winning record. We have an even record in the conference, and we've shown improvement. So I think that, and the fact that we lost people and that we've seen improvements and what needed to be improved, I think that's what makes it a successful season. The wins and losses will come, especially when Archie gets players that fit his system, that do things offensively that maybe the people that we have don't do. When the offense catches up to what the defense has been doing under his system, we're going to start seeing results. It's just patience, people, patience.
And it's also, you mentioned the people leaving. Those probably would have been the top three scorers. Jawan Morgan might not have had the 100% breakout season because the ball would have had to be shared a little more. And like he probably would have fit somewhere in that top three, top four. But all three of those guys would have been the top scorers. I think Blackman might have actually been able to finally shoot the ball more because we're using screens better. And he would have been literally the only guy that actually shot the ball. Thomas Bryant can always hold his own down low, and I think Archie would have been able to use him a lot easier. OG, same kind of thing. He's just
OG in this system. OG in this defensive system would have been a Player of the Year candidate.
He would have been Jawan. He would have been Jawan Morgan. Add 10 points and a few rebounds, basically. No disrespect to Jawan Morgan, but just
right.
He is just it's so.
OG's a freak, as they say in the NBA. So, and defensively, he would have been the best person on the floor, probably in the country, just because of his length and size and athleticism, and putting him in this system that Archie has is just mouth-watering, but I don't even want to talk about it because it didn't happen. So,
and you also got you talked about just consistent growth. What did you and I both especially articulated this from the beginning. I even said at the very beginning was we can't judge this team until late December, early January. Even then, this team wasn't as good. It was literally this past month that this team has really kicked it on and just grown tremendously. I'm not going to say a lot of the stats because I want you guys really to see if you can listen to that podcast with Jared Morris, but he had so many statistics out of the past month about how IU and especially the defense has gone and how it's basically transitioned over the past 10, 11 games. The biggest stat that stood out to me, and we talked about defense, how important the defense improvement was at early January, late December or something like that. Our defensive efficiency rate was in 240 or something like that, like 240th in the nation.
Yeah, awful.
After our last game against Minnesota, we are like 75th or something like that.
We're in the top 80 in the nation in defensive efficiency. Like, that is an insane improvement.
In a month and a half,
we're playing better people too.
Exactly.
We're playing in conference.
In a month and a half, we jumped up from 240-ish to 75, 80 or so. That's how far we jumped up, almost basically 160, 170 spots out of 350 in the entire NBA. That's ridiculous. And that's amazing too. Like, you've got anomaly games, basically. Like you got Michigan State where we got blown out and stuff like that. But then I think it kind of balanced itself out with Rutgers where they actually scored. I don't know if you read the last article that I wrote. The Rutgers scoring was the least amount of points an IU opponent has let since 2009, where they played Loyola or something. I don't even think actually that good of a school. It was some low tier that you might not even thought was a college, basically. And I didn't even look up. I didn't even look up. I should have kept going. I didn't have time yet to look up how far back IU let 43 points to a Big Ten opponent. I guarantee it's been decades since IU has let up 43 points. Yeah.
I think
it was 2002.
2002. I think everybody remembers what happened in 2002. So the defensive efficiency and the defense has improved so much that it's getting me so excited for the future. Seriously, it is. The games and the results haven't gone our way this year. Obviously, it started the season not going our way, and it's continued the whole year. We haven't gotten the results, but we're playing the right way. We've kept games close against teams that we shouldn't have probably kept close. When we have Zach McRoberts, who, yes, he's a walk-on, but he's also a Division I basketball player, and Freddie McSwain, and we don't have anybody over the height of 6'8", 6'7" on the floor at all times, and we're keeping it close with teams with a future top 10 pick in the draft that's 6'11" from Indianapolis, Indiana, and Jaren Jackson. So I'm excited for the future. I think I had a little bit of optimism going into the year. I took a little bit of the spoonful of sugar. going into the year with my predictions for the results this year. But
honestly, if you really take out the Indiana State, Fort Wayne, and honestly Illinois, and chalk those losses, and you turn it around, think of that. What is IU? They're 13 or 14 and 12, 14 and 12, right? Yeah. You take that away, and that's 17 and 9. Yeah, 17 and 9, and that's already a completely different season. Like 17 and 9 is, I don't think we didn't have the wins to get into the tournament, but we definitely be in the conversation for the NIT. Yeah, we would be in conversation.
We're definitely in the conversation for the NIT. We're a bubble team with that because they're like, look, they kept Duke close, they kept Purdue close, they kept Michigan State close, right? Instead of, look, they kept these teams close, but they also lost to ISU and Fort Wayne again.
That's what I mean. So you take away those and the Illinois game, which shouldn't have happened, and it's already a 17 and 9 season. So really, us being optimistic was, honestly, that was a good thing because if you take away those losses, you and I both actually, and we have our article posted on there. You and I both are actually very close to what we predicted the record would be at the very end of the season, but. But basically, long-term versus short-term success. Short-term success, that's what we're talking about, is how, right now IU is 14 and 12. That's not a good thing in Indiana basketball year to year. Obviously, a coach would be fired in a heartbeat if you had like 2 or 3 consistent seasons like that. But I mean, Archie Miller has taken a team of almost, he probably might not have gotten any of these players if he really wanted to, if he was recruiting them. And he's really tried to just basically just really bring these people up, because also you would never have thought if you would have told me Zach McRoberts was like the second best player on the court, second or third best player on the court at the beginning of the season and starting and being a difference maker, I would have said you were crazy. So Archie is finding a way to get these players from being basically just okay players to like being working hard and getting a lot of results.
I'll one up you on the McRoberts thing. If you had told me that our starting point guard and starting center at the end of the year would have been Devontae Green and Freddie McSwain, I would have assumed that half of our roster had perished in some sort of way. So what he's doing with the talent and the people he has is, I honestly think, is kind of miraculous. And that's no offense to our guys, right? I love them, but the squad is not a squad that's supposed to compete for Big Ten titles. And
we don't have 7 or 8 top 50, top 20 recruits.
Right. But if you add the 3 people that left to this roster, we're up there with Michigan State. We're up there with Purdue. So, roster turnover, and for better or worse, we've sent people to the NBA. Purdue sends one person to the NBA last year, everybody stays. And look at Purdue, right? Mm-hmm. So the model maybe isn't for guys to go to the NBA early, but that's just a totally another discussion, right? Because you look at one and done programs, look at Kentucky. Look how Kentucky's struggling this year. They have 10 people on their roster that could, probably go to the NBA. Not really 10, but a solid 7 that could probably play in the NBA someday, and they're struggling. They have the talent, but they're only there for 1 year. And look at Duke. Duke can't play defense. They have the players to play defense. They have the system to play defense. They have the coach. No matter how much.
Duke has honestly one of the most talented teams in recent history, and still look where they're at.
Yeah, well, until next year, and then they will have the most talented team
exactly,
of all time. Yeah. But yeah, so
then you add the long-term success, which is just kind of him just building the system and building the mentality, even when there was a good point last game when IU is up by over 20 points, and I don't remember who it was, messed up. It might have been even like Robert or Zach or something like that. Messed up. Didn't matter. Archie pulled him aside, pulled him out of the game, and said that's still not acceptable. Even though we're up 20 points, the game was over. He's still just setting that. He's setting that standard basically, and he's getting guys to buy into his system, and he's getting them just to basically just to trust him, and that just basically what the 76ers are doing is trust the process. Exactly. Yep. Trust the process. And as cliche as now that term is coming, it really is true, because now he's going to get in this recruiting class. We still have one recruit yet to go, which say what you will, there's a lot of controversy again over where this one recruit looks really good versus looking really bad. But I think if this one recruit looks and sees that the biggest thing that this team is struggling for is a shooter, and that is 100% of what he is, and he's seeing how Archie is changing the team in literally just 6 to 7 months. Oh my goodness, changing it in 6 to 7 months, add another year and stuff like that in a summer of where he can work with them. I'm just honestly getting giddy with how excited I am.
I hope he looks and remembers laughing at Devontae Green throwing a turnover against Northwestern when Romeo came. Mm-hmm. He was laughing. I remember it. Devontae throws, I think he tries to throw a lob to Freddie, and Freddie must have tripped or something. I don't know. He was trying to pass it. No, he was passing it to somebody. I was passing it to Jawan and passed it off of Jawan's back because Jawan wasn't looking.
Oh, yeah.
And I immediately looked over to Romeo, and Romeo's like laughing. Like I can tell he's like chuckling into his hands, but he doesn't want to show it. 1.5 months later, that same guy that chucked it at his own teammate's back is now probably the third best player on the court for us, and is literally our starting point guard now. So,
which we talked about Devontae at the beginning of the season and how we wanted to see consistency. I'm not 100% sold yet, but I'm more optimistic than I was.
I'm knocking on wood. Something just fell off my desk. I'm knocking on wood. But what I've seen from him the last 5 games, was it? Has it been 4 games yet?
Something like that.
4 games?
3 or 4, yeah.
Has been miraculous. And if he can continue it for the rest of the year, I think he'll be our starting point guard next year. And it also shows everyone, look what Archie does. Look what he does. You give him the talent, and he will deliver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Devontae was this prospect that everybody's like, oh, his brother's Danny Green. Oh, he's like a point guard, and he's got the best dribble on the entire team, right? He's got the best handle.
And Archie being a point guard too.
Yeah, never put it together. And now he's finally putting it together, knock on wood. So I'm really excited. That shows just how much what Archie's been doing with the squad, and people individually. I feel bad that he couldn't do it to Josh, because I like Josh Newkirk as a person.
And I talked about this with Jared too, real quick, but before we hop to the next segment, basically, when you think about Josh, he was at Pitt, so he was at Pitt for a couple of years, which is a completely different system. He gets injured, which means he has time off and he's not within his game. He goes to Tom Crean, where he had a system that he was doing pretty well in, actually. But again, a very different system than where he was at Pitt. Now he goes to Archie, which is, again, another 180 between all of his systems. It's really hard for players to really get into a groove, basically, especially only within 4 years of college, because that's how long he's here. He didn't take an extra year of eligibility because of his injury and stuff. It's hard to defend him with just the way he's been playing recently, but it's defending Josh to the extent and giving him some of the benefit of the doubt, because he's just had, kind of like Freddie, just so many systems where it's hard for him to do that. But I digress. Let's get into our weekly segment of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I can start us out. The good. Man, we got some worldwide thing going on here. There's this worldwide sporting event going on here, and last night, the woman, I guess, the myth, the legend, Chloe Kim, delivered. Oh man, if you haven't seen this girl,
she's so good.
If you haven't seen this girl snowboard, so and let me preface this. About 4 years ago, she's 17 right now. So 4 years ago, she was 13, and she was apparently not only good enough to qualify for the Olympics, but she would have competed and done really well at the age of 13. at the age of 13 years old. She was just too young to get into the Olympics. And now she's at 17, and not only is she tearing it up, but she's been the heavy favorite, not just the favorite, but the heavy favorite for gold medals at the age of 17. She's the new Shaun White. Last night, her very first run, if you don't know much about snowboarding, it's out of 100, and she scored a 91 on her very first run. And then she literally went for a perfect score, which I think has happened 3 or 4 times in Olympic history. She went for a perfect score the second time she fell, but the third time she got a 98.75. And I don't know enough about the Olympics to know how rare that score is, but I can guarantee you that's a completely rare score. So
she beat her closest competition by 9 points.
And that's gold and silver.
100. Right, that's gold and silver. So just put that into perspective. That's how much better she is than the second best person in the world. So
exactly. So that's my good. I could talk about her for a while. We probably will have an Olympic, more of an Olympic segment maybe next week or something like that.
Yeah.
The bad, and let me finish my thought before you go adding me or something like that.
Okay.
I'm saying that the Cavaliers trade over last summer. Let's go all the way back to the summer when the Cavs traded Kyrie for IT, basically. We were wondering who got the better deal? Who got the better deal? We finally saw this last week that the Cavs got the worst of the deal because where is IT? He's gone. He's injured. He's not doing terribly. And that's just where I'm saying the bad is that Kyrie IT trade. And now they even traded IT when I thought it was really funny, honestly. I don't know how you thought of it. IT on last Tuesday was like, I don't want to get traded. Then Thursday, he was traded to a team that he's probably not going to stay on next year. So that was my bad. And that is the reason that it's a bad. Maybe not the trade itself, because the Cavs, I still want to see them go for a while with how they're doing, but they're at least playing better, and they have that trade in itself. They got rid of the bad. Just some of the bad locker room stuff. And then my ugly, we didn't have an ugly last week, so I'm reaching a little bit, is, again, wow, I might be pushing Matt's buttons tonight. The ugly, as amazing as the Eagles winning the Super Bowl was, Eagles fans are honestly the stupidest human beings in the world. There was if you saw the video there was a guy that literally was so excited that he was eating poop, just frozen poop at night after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. For the parade the next on Thursday, the Eagles fans, there was one fan apparently who broke his fingers so he could get a note an official note for a doctor's note to skip work that day. There was, before all of that, the Eagles fans were they decided that the thing for this playoffs were to punch police horses. They literally thought the cool thing to do was to punch not just a horse, which is a huge animal that's going to destroy you if you get close to it, but punch and then a police horse. So that's just my ugly with just how interesting, I guess, Eagles fans can get sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend them at all.
Yeah. Good for them. I'm so glad that Philly gets one, but I mean, come on, guys, you're going just a little crazy with some of the celebrations.
Yeah, but I know. Gotta keep up the stereotype, don't we? Exactly. All right, so my good is sorry, my roommate got really excited about something. My good is that the NBA All-Star game is this weekend. So that's fun. I always love the NBA All-Star game.
And Victor Oladipo is not sick anymore, so he could probably actually do it.
I was getting to that, but even better, we have 2 former Hoosiers in the skills contest. So we got Vic, obviously, dunk contest favorite, and then 2 we got Eric Gordon in the 3-point contest. So that'll be fun to watch. I'm rooting for 2 Hoosiers. We got people to root for now. And then my bad this week has to be, both my bad and ugly surround the Olympics. I think my bad is the weather. It's the Winter Olympics, but it doesn't need to be negative 34 degrees wind chill at the Olympics. So I think that's going to be my bad. I think that's going to actually affect some athletes. If it stays this cold, it's going to affect some athletes.
Oh, it's already affecting the downhill has already been postponed multiple times because of 40-mile-an-hour gusts. So
yeah,
the weather, things behind.
The weather has not been good, so that's my bad.
And that's not we're not slighting South Korea at all. It's not nothing you can control.
I don't think you can control something the South Koreans can control. However, is my ugly, which is the North Koreans and their cheerleading squad.
Oh, that was funny because I was about to say North and South Korea actually did a really good job of like peaceful things. And I'm like, where are you going with this being ugly?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
That's great. The North Korean cheerleading squad, though, are we really going to make a million articles about 200 women that they force to cheer, or else, their family might end up in a prison camp? Are we really going to write articles and be like, look at North Korea, they're normal, they're fine? Don't normalize North Korea. They're still crappy people. Mm-hmm. So no matter how nice they're being for the Olympic Games, and look at us, we're peaceful, they're still the ones that test nuclear rockets, even though we tell them not to, and starve their own people. So sorry, that went a little dark, but anyways.
It is an ugly segment, and that is
ugly. It is an ugly segment, so don't normalize North Korea.
Okay. We're going to touch on this a little bit because obviously literally the next month and a half to almost 2 months, we've got the greatest tournament in sports history, March Madness.
The best 2 weekends in sports.
Exactly. And we've got this past week, the committee, which I kind of like now, they started last year. They finally started to they put out basically a preview bracket to where they show the top 16 teams. So basically just the top 4 seeds in each thing, so the top 16 overall. And they've got – so we're going to talk a little bit about that in Bracketology. We're not going to dive into it a lot because we still have a few weeks before even the Selection Sunday and stuff like that. So we got a lot of time to talk about it. But we're just going to quickly dive into it and our thoughts. But the top 16, so we got our top 4 seeds. We got Virginia, Villanova, Purdue, Xavier. Those are the number 1 seeds. All right. Then we go to number 2. We got Cincinnati, Duke, Kansas, Auburn. Those are number 2s. 3s, Michigan State, Texas Tech, North Carolina, Clemson. There's our 3s. And then number 4, Tennessee, Ohio State, Arizona, and Oklahoma. So top 16. Those were our last 4. What out of just these 4, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing that I don't think Virginia will be on the 1 line.
You don't think they're going to be at like a number 1 seed at all by the end of it?
I don't think they will be. I think they'll be a 2 seed. I think who's going to sneak up into the 1 seed? No one talks about them because they're marred in controversy right now. But I think your Auburn is going to end up in the 1 seed. So you're going to have Villanova is going to be the number 1 overall seed because they're Villanova and they're a number 1 seed factory. 2, don't count out X. I think Xavier is going to be your 2nd overall seed. I think those 2, or Xavier might end up being the 4th because they're going to end up losing to Villanova in the Big Ten championship, or not Big Ten, Big East championship game. My bad. Big East championship game. But they're both going to be on the 1 line. Purdue is going to be the 2. And then Auburn's going to be my 3rd. So Auburn's going to move from 5 to 3, Xavier down to 4, Villanova up to 1, Purdue up to 2. That's my number 1 seeds.
The biggest thing I saw in this top 16 stuff, the biggest thing I saw was that Kansas is a number 2 seed. They're not having a very good season for Kansas. They're 19-6, which that's like 3 seasons combined of losses. And that's 6 losses. So I'm honestly shocked that they put literally 2 days ago that they put Kansas as a number 2 seed. Even number 3, you could stretch it a little more, but I thought that was number 2 because that's saying they're literally the 5th to 8th best team. And I definitely don't think they're the 5th to 8th best team when you put them as a 2 seed. Yeah, I agree with a lot of the stuff you said. I think Oklahoma is going to fall off. Oklahoma is lost, what, 6 of their last 8, 5 of their last 6. I don't know yet. And they're literally, if you go into the AP rankings, they're 23rd in the AP rankings. And they're not doing real hot right now. So I definitely think Oklahoma.
You can't count out Trae Young.
Oh, no, you can't. But that's just in the game itself. I'm talking about seeding and stuff. I definitely think.
I believe they are going to lose to Texas Tech. So, yeah, they're down by 8 with like 20 seconds left. So
and we're recording this right now. We're at 9 p.m. on Tuesday, February 13th, folks. So whenever you listen to this, that's why we're talking about they might lose at this point. And if they're going to lose again,
so I think
again, that's 9 losses. They're definitely going to make the tournament, but I think their seed is falling rapidly. 4 seed is like, I don't even think even if they win out the rest of the Big 12 and all that stuff, I don't think they get up to the 4 seed anymore. I think they get up to 5 at the highest. I think, and honestly, they're going to get to like maybe 7 or 8 when it's all said and done. But I think they're going to be a dangerous 7 and 8. It's just a matter of where they're going to be a
7 or 8 seed.
Oh yeah, I don't think they're. They're just because they talk about how it's how you play recently. Oklahoma is just terrible with their recent play.
That's first off, they're losing to Texas Tech right now, which they're above them on the bracketology, and it's at Texas Tech, and they've kept it a close game. First off,
they lost. All right, so let's do this.
Second off, I think Oklahoma's going to be like a 5 seed. Actually, I think they'll drop down a line, but they won't drop down too much because of my second point and why Kansas is ranked so high. The Big 12 this year is putting out. They're real good. They have probably 5, 6, 7 teams that could make the tournament. I'm looking Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Kansas, TCU possibly, Texas maybe. There's a bunch of teams in there that could make the tournament for the Big 12. Big 12 top to bottom is the best league, I think, in my opinion. ACC is very close behind, but Big 12 is the best league. And my knock on Purdue and Michigan State is that the Big 10 is having an off year this year. So if you're looking at the seeds, that's why Ohio State, who's leading the Big 10, right, is the 14 out of the 16. So they're a 4 seed, and Purdue's a 1 seed, even though they're second in the Big 10 now. And Michigan State, who's third in the Big 10, is a 3 seed, I believe. Yeah, like the last 3 seed. I think they would be up higher if it wasn't Ohio State. That is, would be up higher if it wasn't for the lack of depth in the Big 10. Because you look at us, and we're right in the middle. We should not be right in the middle. We're having an off year. Like, we should be near the bottom. But
yeah, but my point with just recent play, because they really do, at least in recent years, the committee has looked at recent play. So you go all the way back to this is all the way in the mid-January with how they haven't been playing very well. January 16th, Kansas State, they lost by 18 points to Kansas State. Then they lost to Oklahoma State in overtime. They did beat Kansas. They did beat Kansas in a close game, so there's another good win for them. But then they lost to Alabama. They beat Baylor, which is not a very good team at all, and they only beat them by 2. Lost to Texas, lost to West Virginia, which is okay. Lost to Iowa State. They're probably going to lose to Texas Tech. Now it's a 14-point game.
Yeah,
so that's just that's just really. I'm not saying they're going to do poorly at all. I just don't think they're going to be highly ranked at all because they just have so many losses. Because you're now getting to, if they didn't have any of those huge wins, and they've had a lot of big wins. If they didn't have any big wins, that they'd be a bubble team and almost out because of the amount of losses. It's like 9, 10-ish is where the bubble teams fall. So they've got a lot of L's, and that does. Even if you have some big W's, sometimes the L's take over, as we saw IU last year, as they could still beat North Carolina and Kansas, almost top ranked stuff, and then they still made the NIT, and that was about it. Not even top of the NIT. So that was the only part with Oklahoma.
I think Oklahoma will end up being a 5 seed. And here's why. They got the Steph Curry Davidson seeding wrong every year. Every year they had them too low, and they went on this incredible run. Of course, everybody remembers the Steph Curry run. I think they feel burned by that factor. Who does Steph Curry or who does Trae Young remind you of? Steph Curry. It's a team that could make a run. That's the difference between look at their previous form and look at what's actually on the floor. Trae Young gets hot, that team is unstoppable. That team could literally beat anyone because you have to double team Trae, and you literally have athletic big guys on the wing. That's Oklahoma in its synopsis. So
yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, and I think a lot of it's going to fall with who they try and match up like they did a couple years ago with.
Right.
It's no coincidence that IU and Kentucky were the seeds that they were and where it landed
Yeah.
up. So
Yeah.
I think that'll probably play a factor into it. But another team I thought was an interesting seeding. Usually on a regular year, you'd think Duke at number 2. Oh, they might actually be having a little off year. But Duke as a number 2 seed, I even think is a little high in some respects because that's, again, 5 through 8. And Duke is 20-5. They haven't had the normal kind of season. They're 12th in AP top 25 and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
I mean, just we're talking about some things that are popping out, and I think it's interesting also how Arizona has squeaked up into the 4th seed after a weird year for Arizona, to say the least. Especially with obviously all of the off the court stuff, but then like they'll go on runs, but then they'll go on like losing streaks and stuff like that.
This season has been so topsy-turvy. That's why I'm so excited for the tournament, because there's going to be so many upsets. I already know it. You can already tell.
We thought last year was bad, and this year I think it's going to be
this year's
worse.
Nuts. This year, literally, I go like, I could tell you that I was like, oh, Duke's gonna run away with it. Look where Duke's at. Oh, North Carolina will be fine.
Look where they're at. Yeah, exactly.
Virginia? I thought Virginia was a rebuilding year.
Here they are at the number 1 seed again.
What do I know? What do I know? So
exactly. And I think a lot of what the committee was looking at was just big wins, basically. A lot of these teams that are in have gotten some big wins. You even see Tennessee. When would you ever think, first of all, Tennessee not only getting into the tournament, but then being in the top 4? Exactly. That's
if you haven't watched Tennessee play, you need to watch Tennessee play in order for you to do your bracket, because you're counting out maybe a Elite 8 contender if you haven't watched Tennessee play. Because honestly, they get in the right bracket, they're going to make a run. So
exactly. Yeah, but we'll keep talking about that.
Yeah.
Bracketology
is fun.
Exactly. Yeah. But that about wraps it up for our 23rd show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us, and please feel free to add suggestions in the comment section or contact us through our website. A reminder to follow us on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound, like our Facebook page, as well as subscribe on YouTube. If you enjoy the show, these are vital for receiving updates for our show, but you can also subscribe on either Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and leave us a review. All the links are in the description below. Visit our website at thehoosiersound.com to find all of our information regarding our podcast, and stay tuned for updates through social media. As always, send us your questions as the audience. Be sure to comment, chat, or send us a message at contact@thehoosiersound.com on what questions you have, and we'll get them on our next episode, kind of like we did with Jared last week. So we really do try and do that. So get some of those questions in. But lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. It really helps so that we can grow this podcast. But thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.